Hello, everyone. I am Justina Okechukwu. A warm welcome to the show this week, proudly brought to you with support from the African Energy Chamber. Let's take off with some energy news headlines from here in Africa and around the world. A new report by the World Economic Forum shows that the current energy transition trajectory puts equity under pressure as energy market volatility resulting from macroeconomic and geopolitical developments over the past 3 years have led to extreme price shocks, increased energy poverty, and stalling energy access. According to the Energy Transition Index, Kenya jumped significantly in rank this year for making aggressive efforts towards transition readiness by improving its regulatory environment and infrastructure. In the meantime, Kenya has announced a revision of fuel prices after President William Ruto signed a new Finance Bill 2023 into law, bringing into effect a 16% value-added tax on petroleum product consumption. The new fuel prices were introduced on Friday, June 30. A Ghana-based independent African energy company known as Springfield Group has secured a $750 million facility from the Africa Export-Import Bank to drive deep-water investments in the West African country. Sound Energy, a British energy firm, has secured 2.365 billion dirhams financing from Morocco's Attijari Wafa Bank for the development of its Tendrara gas production concession in North Africa. Italian oil giant Eni has signed a $300 million deal to sell its non-core assets in the Central African country of Congo-Brazzaville to French independent company Perenco. The Uganda National Oil Company says it expects to commence oil production from the Tilenga project in the first half of 2025. The project is operated by state-owned UNCO in partnership with French energy major Total Energies and China National Offshore Oil Corporation. The 8th OPEC International Seminar is due in Vienna, the Austrian capital, from July 5 to 6. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries will be hosting ministers from member countries as well as heads of intergovernmental organizations, chief executives of national and international oil companies, including industry leaders at the high-profile event. And that was a snapshot of your energy news headlines. When we return, we look at how Africa can ensure efficient distribution systems and pave the way for a more resilient energy future. Welcome back to the program. Now, Africa's population is growing at a very fast pace, and so is the continent's demand for energy. The continent faces the dual challenge of expanding access to electricity while transitioning to cleaner and more sustainable energy sources. This was part of conversations at the Africa Energy Forum Summit held recently in Nairobi. Rumundaka Wonodi, the founder and CEO at ZKJ Energy Partners and Pioneer CEO of the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, was at the AETF conference in Kenya, and he shared with me his key takeaways from the forum. Take a listen. Now, let's speak about your key takeaways from the 2023 Africa Energy Forum in Nairobi.
The central thing, as you can imagine, it's about energy transition and the effects of climate change. So what you hear from the African countries, the nations, and even the institutions is that, yes, there's a need to adopt cleaner forms of energy, but for Africa, the more important issue, the priority is energy access. And to the extent that adoption of renewable energy technologies work for us, then that it's a very good thing. So in context, take, for instance, the AFDB, which is doing a lot to empower nations and providing some form of funding, grants, and technical support, made the point again that when it comes to global emissions, that African countries in power just contribute about 3% of the emissions. And that is negligible. And as one said, if you were to turn off all the power plants in Africa, you wouldn't even notice any change in the emissions in the world. So Africa should focus more on energy access. And one way to do that is adoption of, things like solar, mini hydros, which at the end of the day are renewable energy resources. But so that's the discussion. And so it's no more energy transition. It has to be just energy transition. It's got to be fair, it's got to be equitable, and it has to work for everyone, not just energy transition. And we had the opportunity of the COP, is that COP28, the one that is going to happen this year, later in United Arab Emirates. So the chairman of the organizing committee was there, and he also supported the view held by the African nations that, look, it has to be just when it comes to energy transition. So that is my major takeaway about the central discussions that dominating the space.
Now, I'll have to wonder, what precisely are the challenges to transmission and distribution in the energy network?
So first is funding. In some instances, there is also the issue of the landscape, as in, you have dispersed population. So think about Nigeria, you get to the Sahel regions, and then you have very far-flung communities. That becomes a challenge. And that's why I was saying that, when it comes to energy access, we're going to see that adoption of some renewable technologies can help in providing mini grids and solar plants. The other thing about financing is the issue of tariffs, affordability. By the time you translate these to cents and dollars, you find out that they are pretty expensive. And therefore, you have these depressed tariff that would not allow and encourage investment. And the last part of it is the governance and the investment environment. So many of the African countries seem not to stay with one policy and run it through the period. So, but places like Kenya has shown that if the government stays focused and drives its reform, they could actually make progress. But you've seen what's happened in Nigeria in the last couple of years, where we have multiple exchange windows, we have low tariffs, and then we have, more importantly, governance issues about how the sector is driven. So the challenges, again, just to say, you have tariffs, you have geography, you have leadership, governance, and unstable economic climate.
Now, I would ask these questions 3 in 1 because you mentioned something about funding. Now, why is funding such a big dilemma in the whole just energy transition? And how can Africa increase its power generation capacity? Also, do you see any major improvements in the near to medium term?
Justina, I think that the most important part of this is leadership and governance, right? You also have to look at the solution that works for you. So most of the African nations now have challenges trying to access capital outside of Africa and from other regimes where there's an imposition that we cannot fund gas-fired projects, we cannot fund coal-fired projects, we cannot fund anything but that is renewable. We have to take the narrative and then begin to work. I believe that, yes, there is a need for foreign investment for most of the African nations. But, just think about how much Nigeria is wasted on subsidies, both petrol, electricity, that if they were invested in real capital, capital investment, things will turn around. So we tend to look for help outside when we should actually domesticate our resources and do something for us. So yeah, that's where the funding is it's a problem. Again, I've talked about investment climate. It has to be stable. And then there are a lot of funds that are in different savings that could actually do much more in the infrastructure space in Africa. And I keep thinking about Nigeria as one example.
Imagine a future where tomorrow's solutions build a world of opportunities for all, and where human potential is truly realized, where every child has an equal chance in life, no matter where they were born. Imagine the potential of a continent built on low-carbon oil and natural gas and abundant renewable energy. Imagine Mozambique, Angola, Nigeria, Uganda, Senegal, Egypt, Namibia, and Algeria being let free to develop their natural resources without pressure from wealthy countries to leave it in the ground. Imagine an Africa where we cut red tape bureaucracy and provide better fiscal terms so we can compete globally for energy investments. African Energy Week is the African Energy Chamber's annual event held at the Cape Town waterfront, uniting African energy leaders, global investors, and executives from across the public and private sector for 4 days of intense dialogue on the future of the African energy industry. Showcasing the latest technologies and innovations to 5,000 plus registered delegates from over 100 countries and international professionals from across the global energy sector. Be part of the future of the energy industry and join the energy movement by becoming an official sponsor, exhibitor, delegate, or partner. African Energy Week.
And finally, the African Energy Chamber has announced the opening of nominations for the highly anticipated annual African Energy Week Awards 2023. The award ceremony will recognize and celebrate the remarkable achievements of those who have made extraordinary contributions towards the advancement of the oil and gas industry in Africa. Deadlines for submission is 25th of August, and winners will be announced at the African Energy Week Gala Dinner scheduled for 17th October in Cape Town, South Africa. But that's not all. You can also apply for the Annual Energy Scholarship Award known as the AEC African Energy Education Fund, which is aimed at supporting young individuals across Africa who are pursuing undergraduate studies in the oil and gas and energy-related fields. Successful winners stand a chance to receive financial support ranging from $5,000 to $10,000 and an opportunity to attend and actively participate in the Youth Forum of the African Energy Week 2023, scheduled to hold in Cape Town, South Africa from the 16th to the 20th of October. To submit your entry, please visit the AEC website at www.energychamber.org for more information about the nomination and scholarship process. And that's a wrap on the show this week. We thank you for watching. Remember to follow the program on Frontier Africa Reports website, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us across all our social media handles as indicated on the screen. It's goodbye from me, Justina Okechukwu. I'll see you soon.